Uh, I would have to imagine you got to talk to me a little bit about your margin of error situation here. It seems to me like when you're working on something that's probably taking hundreds of hours to produce, I'm assuming that some of these definitely do. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Please, even actually don't just lie to me and tell me that it takes hundreds of hours to produce this. Um, but I cannot imagine that, like what happens in the studio of Jake Weidmann late at night when you're 90% there and you spill ink all over the artwork that you've been working on for so long.
Uh, well, that really depends on the substrate. If I can get, and it's fun to actually be able to talk technical about this stuff because most people like would be bored to tears. But knowing your audience, hopefully they get something of interest out of this. If it's paper, there's very little forgiveness. There's always, I think a master is not one who never makes mistakes. I think a master is one who learns to use their mistakes and correct them where necessary. I actually wrote about this in a book that's coming out, a whole chapter called Pentimento. Pentimento is an Italian term used for traditional painters, and it quite literally means a repentance, a change of direction. And so it's usually late in the process, but through radio, like spectrometry, I think is what it is, where they like can X-ray paintings now. They can
Yeah,
see like where Rembrandt had his
had
pentimento
redone.
change the composition of the piece. So, um, so I think there's, as I've gone on, I've learned how to work with some mistakes. Now, if ink spills, that's pretty catastrophic. And if it were paper, it probably means starting over again. If it's vellum, vellum is actually extremely resilient. And I had a piece. I mean, it's still a tragedy when tragedy strikes, but at least it's recoverable. So I was working on a piece, a massive commission. I was doing the hymn, The Old Rugged Cross, and it was highly detailed, super ornamental, beautiful script. And I just laid down all of the script from the hymn, and so I was going back to my studio in the morning after a long workout and excited to get to work. And we had a cleaning crew that had come to our house that day. Um, and they had left by the time I got there, but I went back to my studio and someone had taken a wet rag to my art piece and just wiped it down thoroughly, and smeared all the ink all over the piece. And I had dozens of hours into the piece at this point. I had done like a lot of oil painting in the border, and all of my script was ruined. It shocked me. I fell to my knees and was like trembling when I saw it. And so that's the biggest tragedy that's happened. And so what I had to do, like because it was on calfskin vellum, I was able to take a razor blade and scrape the surface off of the rest of the ink where it was there. And then where the ink had been smeared over all of my painting, I used Q-tips and my own saliva, which is an art restorer's technique because your saliva has an enzyme in it that actually breaks down the binders in the ink. And the binder in Sumi ink is gum arabic, which is even used in like salad dressings and things. So I had to go centimeter by centimeter with a Q-tip and my own saliva, like to pull the ink. So I had to play art restorer before I could become artist again and get back to work on the piece. Uh, so yeah, I mean, tragedy does strike now and then, and you have to start over.